welcome to the SimHanger. My name's Mark. If you're thinking about getting into flight simulation for the first time, or you're already in flight simulation and you're thinking about upgrading or replacing your PC, then one of the questions following the release of Microsoft Flight Simulator on the Xbox Series X and S is, should it be on PC or on Xbox? In this video, we attempt to give you the information to help you make that decision. We're going to look at the pros and cons of each platform. We'll also have a look at some side-by-side tests, Xbox and PC, and we'll finish off with my final thoughts and conclusions. To kick things off, let's have a look at the reasons why you'd want to get Flight Simulator on your PC. Firstly, if you're invested or intend to invest in virtual reality VR, then the PC is the only option. There are no VR options available currently on the Xbox platform. PC users have an open and free access to third-party applications and can add and subtract them at will, with very few limitations or restrictions. And this includes the vast array of freeware out in the market already. Xbox access to third-party applications is currently restricted to the marketplace within Microsoft Flight Simulator. And whilst there's quite a wide range of choice already available and that will expand rapidly, it is still considerably more limited than that available on the PC. Whilst both the PC and Xbox Series X and S are multiplayer compatible and cross-platform, if you want to use any third-party networks such as VATSIM, IVAO or Pilot Edge, you're currently limited to the PC. I'm not saying technically it's not possible to provide it on the Xbox platform, but it's not available at this time. The PC is a fairly mature flight simulation platform, and therefore the amount of hardware peripherals available is fairly diverse and wide-ranging, which includes specialist hardware availability for cockpit builders and the like. PCs are upgradable at a component level, and therefore, depending on your setup, it can be relatively inexpensive to move up a step or two in terms of performance. You don't always have to buy a new PC. The PC version of Microsoft Flight Simulator has considerably more settings and configurations, particularly with regards to graphics, than that available on the Xbox platform. This means visually you're able to change and adapt things to suit yourself and your system. Is this really an advantage? Well, I think it's a little bit of a double-edged sword. Flight simulation on a PC of course makes sense if you've already had to invest for other reasons in the PC platform. Turning now to the Xbox, the first question is, can we get the performance levels that we want from the Xbox? Or are the compromises just too much? Well, you can judge for yourself, as I include two separate examples a little later on, both GA and Airline. But in my opinion, yes you can. One of the more obvious reasons to invest in Microsoft Flight Simulator on the Xbox is pure cost. The Xbox Series X costs something in the region of £449 and the Series S £299. There is no way you're going to get a PC in that price range capable of running Microsoft Flight Simulator, and that's a fact. In terms of overall cost, you're looking at 3 to 4 times that cost to get something in the medium level, and you're looking at 5 to 6 times that cost to get something at the top end. I mentioned earlier that the number of graphical configuration options are next to nil on the Xbox. But for many flight simmers, this may well be a blessing. You just get in and fly. No tweaking of different settings here and there. It's just get in and go. It's pretty much hassle-free. Because the Xbox is a fairly closed system, there are very few install issues that are experienced. So once again, it's an install and fly situation rather than any potential issues. That's not to say there's no issues at all, of course there are, but they're fewer than that experienced on the PC because the variety of different PC hardware does not have to be catered for. Whilst the number of peripheral options are very limited at this time, that is likely to expand and somewhat explode over a period of time. And we've already had announcements from the likes of Turtle Beach and Honeycomb, as well as Thrustmaster. Okay, so let's get to the test. The PC was running at 4K on a 60Hz monitor, and Xbox was running on the same monitor, providing a stable 30 frames per second. The graphic settings for the PC were as shown earlier. This was all done with default aircraft and default scenery. There are a number of noted differences, especially at night, in terms of draw distance and also the level of detail applied. But I'm sure rather than me highlight them, you'll be able to pick these out yourself. Just a note on the Xbox. It can run more than 30 frames per second, but you do need a monitor or TV that runs at 120 Hz or higher. Overall, I'd say the Xbox performance was impressive and the differences, well, they were nominal. Turning now to my final thoughts and opinions. The fact that Asobo have been able to bring Microsoft Flight Simulator to the Xbox console at this sort of performance level is a commendable achievement in itself. We do, of course, have to recognize the pros, cons, and limitations of each platform. It's my opinion that, VR aside, the Xbox Series X and to a lesser extent the Xbox Series S offer a very viable and practical alternative to the PC for Microsoft Flight Simulator. This is especially so if this is your first or an early venture into the world of flight sim. So is the Xbox only for new entrants into the market? Well, no, it's not. There have already been a number of announcements regarding new peripherals coming into the market for the Xbox. And third-party products are available via the marketplace, and who knows where that will lead over a period of time. There is, however, a concern that I have, and I need to raise it here. Microsoft Flight Simulator is now 1 year old, and the speed of development in the last 12 months has been unparalleled in the flight sim industry. And yes, in the case of Sim Update 5, for example, it's been a fairly frustrating experience at times. But generally, I believe they have met and often exceeded our expectations. And talking not only from a development point of view, but also from a user-based point of view, Microsoft Flight Simulator has swept the opposition aside. You may not be comfortable with that statement, but the figures speak for themselves. Those are the facts. The exceptions being DCS, simply because it is a combat-based simulation, and of course those more bespoke or professional applications or implementations. The concern I have is directed more to people like myself, the more serious flight sim enthusiast, and those up to this point that have invested a fair amount of money into this hobby. And the recent issues regarding Sim Update 5, I suppose, has only fueled my concern that little bit more. I am talking, of course, about future development restraints. Microsoft only release new versions of their Xbox platform every couple of years or so. And I just hope that PC-based simmers such as myself, with top-end CPUs and graphics cards which have cost a pretty penny, that we will get a sim that will be able to take advantage of this hardware and not be constrained by the limitations of the Xbox Series X. At this point, however, I remain optimistic. Quite a number of people are getting fairly hot under the collar over the problems with Sim Update 5. But I think taking a positive spin on it, and I think you have to in this circumstance, there's another hot fix out. Will this solve all the problems? Well, no, it won't. But it does emphasize again the commitment from Microsoft and Asobo. And I remain confident they'll get it right. Are you optimistic? Let me know in the comments below. Thank you very much for joining me today. I hope you found this useful and informative. I'll see you all again soon. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.